My model makes this game -4. My model loves this side. My model has this total 3 points higher. You hear that stuff everywhere now. It's in every NFL video, every TikTok, every Twitter thread. Everyone suddenly has a model. The guy betting $10 parlays has a model. This dude recording pics in his car, he has a model. Content creator, model. Discord tout, definitely a model. And look, I'm not anti-model. I use models. I like models. But at some point, you start asking yourself, do these models actually mean anything? What is a model, really? And when does my model just turn into this magic word people throw out there so you don't question anything that they're saying? That's what I want to talk about today. Not in a super technical way, not here's how to code a model in Python, just what models actually are, what they aren't, and why my model makes it this has kind of become the new trust me bro in sports betting. So quick background, so this doesn't feel like some random rant. I'm Rob Pizzola. I run the Hammer Betting Network, a sports betting media company, which includes this channel, Circles Off, and many others. I spend way too much of my life consuming betting content. Not just the stuff that we make here at the Hammer, but everybody else's too. YouTube, podcasts, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. If someone is talking about sports betting, there's a decent chance and it ended up in my feed at some point. And over the last couple years, my model has kind of become the backbone of a lot of that content. My model makes this, my model loves that. It's just the default justification now. You don't have to explain your process. You just say, my model, and you move on. Now, I want to be really clear again. I'm not anti-model at all. I love this stuff. I use models for my own personal betting. I'm what's often referred to as an originator. I use multiple models. I spend a stupid amount of time trying to make them better. Models are a big part of how I bet. So this isn't a models are bad video. It's not a coding tutorial. It's not me flexing like, oh, my numbers are better than everyone else's. Think of this more as a state of the union on model culture. What models actually do, how they're supposed to be used, and how a lot of people are using them in ways that, frankly, don't really make sense. So let's strip away the mystery for a second and just talk about what a model actually is. At the most basic level, a model is just a structured way of turning information into a prediction. Numbers go in, number comes out, that's it. That number might be, I think this team should be -3.5, or I think this total should be 46.5, or this team scores X points on average. But underneath it, that number is always calculated the same way. Same inputs, same rules, same process every single time. And that can be really simple. The classic example is a power ratings model. Every team has a number. You take team A minus team B, you add in some home field advantage, and boom, you have a spread. Or it can be way more complex than that. You can use play-by-play data, EPA per play, success rate, drive efficiency, player grades, injuries, weather, travel, all these things roll together with some math, and you end up with a prediction. The way I think about it is like a recipe. Your ingredients are things like yards per play, success rate, pressure rate, injuries, rest, travel, whatever. You decide how much each ingredient matters. You mix them together in a consistent way, and what comes out of the oven is your number on the game, the spread, the total, or whatever you're modeling. And here's the key part. A model is not a crystal ball. It's just an approximation of reality. Even the best models in the world are just slightly better approximations than everyone else's. The whole goal is to be a bit less wrong than the market on average, not to magically land 10 points off on every game, and definitely not to be perfect. When you hear, my model makes this, you're not listening to some infallible truth. You're listening to someone's recipe for the game. Now, before we talk about different types of real models, I want to hit something that confuses a lot of people. What a model is not. There are a bunch of products out there that will let you query a database and do what I'd call trend mining. This team is an underdog in a primetime game coming off of a win. Home dogs between 3 and 7 points after scoring 24 plus last week are 18 and 7 against the spread. People run a query like that. They say, hey, this angle is 72% against the spread over the last 20 years. Suddenly, they think they have a betting model. That's not modeling. That's just slicing and dicing past betting results. You're not actually predicting how good the team is going forwards. You're not telling us what that information means moving forwards. You're just filtering history until you find a pattern that looks cool. And the problem is, against the spread records are incredibly noisy. If you cut the data enough ways, you can find a trend for literally anything. Teams wearing blue jerseys on short rest, coaches named Mike coming off a loss, how a team fares against the spread when they flip from a favorite to an underdog. If your model is basically step 1, type in situational angle, step 2, look at past against the spread record, step 3, bet on it because it's 61% historically, you don't have a model. You have a search engine for randomness. A real model is forward-looking. It tries to capture things that cause teams to score and allow points. Play efficiency, explosiveness, turnovers, injuries, matchups, coaching, whatever you can quantify. And then it turns into a prediction before the game is played. If you're not producing a predicted score, spread, or total with a consistent process, it's not really a model, no matter how fancy it looks. So with that out of the way, what kind of models are people actually using when they're trying to do this seriously? A lot of people start with what I'd call an entry-level power rating model. Every team has a number. You subtract one from the other, you add in home field, and that's your spread on the game. Now, there's nothing wrong with this as a learning tool. It's a great way to understand how markets move, to track teams over time, maybe find a bit of value in smaller markets or on very early openers if you're sharp and you're disciplined. But in a market like the NFL with big limits, a ton of sharp money involved, that by itself is not going to cut it long term. If your plan is, I have 32 numbers and home field for each team, I'm going to beat a room full of people that are running massive infrastructure and years of data, that's just not realistic. Then you move up the ladder into a more statistical-based model. Here you use things like expected points added per play, success rate, red zone efficiency, maybe drive level metrics, and ideally you're adjusting for strength of schedule. You're trying to translate how teams have actually played into how many points they should score going forwards. That's closer to what serious bettors are doing, but even that is just one layer. On top of that, the pro stuff usually includes player level and injury concepts. You're not just saying Team X has a +4 rating. You're saying, what is this offense worth with this quarterback, with this offensive line, these receivers? What happens when the left tackle is out? What happens when the cornerback room is down to backups? What if the quarterback is limited and he can't run? At a truly professional level, the model is extremely detailed. Baseline team ratings, play-by-play or drive-level efficiency models, player-level adjustments for injuries and usage, situational tweaks for things like rest, travel, weather, maybe even how teams change play calling when they're leading or trailing, constant backtesting and updating so it doesn't fall apart when the league changes. That's the reality of trying to bet into big limits in the NFL or the NBA or any major sport. It's extremely competitive, and the people you're up against are trying to account for as many predictive factors as possible. They're not just saying Team A is a +4, Team B is a +1. Even with all that, the edges you're fighting for are still small. You're not walking around with my model makes this game -21 when the market is -7 in the most liquid markets in the world. You're hunting for maybe a point of value here or there, maybe a little bit more in the right spots. And you're trying to do that over and over and over without the thing breaking. There's also this fantasy that I see now of the overnight supermodel. You open up your Excel on Friday, you grab a couple stats from a website, you plug them into a formula. By Sunday, you've built the thing that's going to crush NFL sides for the rest of the time. That's just not how this works. In markets like the NFL, look at who you're competing against. You've got people betting 6, 7 figures a weekend. You've got syndicates with full-time quants, developers, data feeds that cost more than a car, models they've been iterating on for years. You've got longtime pros who've seen every trend, every fake edge, every new angle come and go. And even those people, with all that infrastructure, are still constantly testing, breaking, and rebuilding their models. They run into edges that disappear. They hit stretches where their stuff stops working, and they have to adapt. They have losing weeks, losing months, maybe even a losing season. So if you spin up a model in a weekend and suddenly it says, well, every favorite on the board should be 10 points higher than the market, the most likely explanation is not that you've just unlocked a secret that nobody else on earth has found. The most likely explanation is that something in your process is off. Maybe you double counted something. Maybe you didn't adjust for strength of schedule. Maybe you're using noisy stats that don't actually predict the future. There are a million ways to accidentally create fake edges. The healthier mindset is if your brand new model is screaming that the entire board is wrong, assume your model is wrong first, not the world. Use that as a cue to dig in, figure out what's broken, treat it as a learning step, not a signal to fire into every single game. As a general rule of thumb, the more efficient the market, the more likely you are to be wrong. One of my biggest pet peeves with model culture is this line that you hear all the time, my model makes this -3, the market's -1, but I'm actually going to bet the dog. Okay, then why do you have a model? Like genuinely, what are we doing here? The entire point of building a model is to take everything you believe is predictive and lock it into a process so that when you get to a game, you're not just going off of vibes, you're going off of something consistent. If every time your number disagrees with the market, you just said, yeah, but I'm not feeling it, and you bet the other side, you don't actually believe in your model. You're just using it as a prop in the conversation. Now, it's totally fine to think your model is missing something. Maybe you think there's a motivational angle, look ahead, revenge game, or whatever narrative you like. That's great, but the next step shouldn't be, I'm going to ignore my number and bet against it. The next step should be, let me test whether this thing I believe in actually matters. Can I define what a look ahead is in a way that I can go back and I can study it? Can I define what a revenge game is in a way that I can go back and study it? Can I measure how many teams in those spots have actually performed in meaningful stats like EPA, success rate, scoring margin, not just against the spread noise? If you find something real, you bake it into the model. You upgrade the process so that next time, your number already reflects that angle. You're not guessing in the moment. Rufus Peabody, one of the best professional bettors that I know, talked about this years ago on Bet the Process, his podcast, and it really stuck with me. His basic point is, if you think something is important, figure out how to capture it in your model. Don't just talk about it. Don't just override the number on gut feeling. Either prove it and include it, or admit that it's probably just a story you like telling yourself. Another version of this, which kind of lives in the same neighborhood, is the classic, I make this game -4, but it's a look-ahead spot, so I'm passing on it. I see this all the time. And again, if you're actually a modeler, this is an opportunity to look into the data further. Every spot like this in a sport where you can test and improve the assumptions of your model, if you really believe look-ahead matters, your brain should immediately go to, okay, what is a look-ahead spot exactly? Is it when a team is a big favorite this week and they play a divisional rival next week? Is it a quote-unquote sandwich game between two tougher opponents? Is it certain ranges of point spread or certain parts of the season? You define it first, then you go back and you test it. Do teams in that spot actually underperform in anything that matters? Do they score less? Do they give up more points? Is their EPA worse? Does their success rate drop? Not just, oh, they're 46% against the spread on this angle, because that's mostly noise. If you go back and find that, yeah, teams in this situation really do underperform in meaningful ways, then perfect. Bake it into the model. Maybe that's worth a small downgrade to the team's rating in those specific situations. Maybe it's worth a fraction of a point off the point spread. Whatever the number is, now your model knows about look-aheads. So when you get to week 10 and you say, I make this -4, you're not saying, I make this -4, but look-ahead spot, I'm going to pass. You're saying, I'm making this -4, including the look-ahead spot. You're not guessing on the fly anymore. The work is already done. It's in the number. Another one that makes me shake my head is this. Market has Team A at -7. Content guy comes along and says, my model makes this game -21. Okay, let's just walk through what that actually implies. If that were true, the real number on this game were -21, and the entire world is hanging -7, you are sitting on one of the biggest edges you will ever see in one of the most liquid markets on the entire planet. You could, in theory, keep betting that edge all the way up, and every sharp book on earth would be begging you to take more action. That almost never exists in the NFL or the NBA or any mature market. Now, you might be directionally correct. Maybe -7 is cheap. Maybe the true number is -7.5 or -8, even -9. But a 14-point disagreement between your model and a heavily bet market is not usually evidence that you've broken the code. It is almost always evidence that something in your model is broken. And this is where humility matters. Treat those giant edges as a bug that you need to investigate, not proof that you're a genius and everyone else is an idiot. So with all that said, how should you actually use a model? To me, there are 3 big things. Number 1, it's an anchor. It's your starting point for what a game should be. Not a dictator, not something you blindly follow no matter what, but the baseline you work from. Okay, my number is -3. Where is the market? Why are we different? It frames the entire conversation. Second, it gives you consistency. Without a model, it's really easy for your opinions to swing all over the place from week to week. One week you love a team, next week you hate the team. You can't really explain why. A model forces you to treat similar situations similarly. If 2 teams have played basically the same, they shouldn't be priced 10 points apart just because you're mad that one of them burned your teaser last week. And third, and what is the main thing I'd love for you to take away from this video, it's an experiment lab. You have a theory about rest or travel or penalties or weather, whatever. Great. Plug it in. Test it. See if it moves the needle on your prediction. If it does, keep it. If it doesn't, trash it. You're constantly refining instead of just stacking narratives. At the end of the day, your model shouldn't be a buzzword or a shield you hide behind. It's just a tool to help you make slightly better, more consistent decisions over hundreds and thousands of bets. That's where it really matters. So just to wrap this up, I am very pro-model. I think they're one of the best tools you can have as a bettor. What I'm against is the model cosplay that's taken over the space, throwing around my model as a magic word with nothing behind it. Real models are powerful, but they're also hard. They're fragile. They're always wrong to some degree. The name of the game is trying to make them a little bit less wrong than everybody else's. If you're a recreational bettor and you're watching this, it is completely fine if you don't have a model. You don't need one to enjoy betting sports. You don't need to pretend you have one just because everyone on YouTube is saying, my model makes it this. Bet small, have fun, try to make good decisions. That's enough. If you're an aspiring modeler, my advice is this. Take it slow. Test things. Break your own ideas. Be honest about what your numbers can and cannot do. If your model disagrees with the market by a little, great, dig in. If it disagrees by a ton, assume you messed something up and figure out why. For all of you betting out there, I'd actually love to hear what you're using. Do you have your own numbers? Are you thinking about building something? Or do you think model has just become a buzzword people are hiding behind right now? Let me know down in the comments below. I do love reading all the comments on this channel every single week. And if you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who's always talking about their model, and we'll do more videos like this, perhaps diving a little bit deeper into modeling in the future. Thanks for watching.